Well, what a week it has been in the life of News International and the Leveson Inquiry. James Murdoch resigned as executive chairman of News International, and the Metropolitan Police said it had loaned Rebecca Brooks a retired horse. Inside the hearings themselves, the focus has been on the relationship between press and police. Our correspondent Peter Hunt attended the hearings and now reports.
The aim, Sue Akers told the inquiry, has never been to threaten the existence of the Sun. But the evidence of the Deputy Assistant Commissioner was potentially damaging for Rupert Murdoch. She's in charge of an investigation which is looking at payments by journalists to what Sue Akers called a network of corrupted officials, which would have been authorised, she said, at a senior level at the tabloid.
There also appears to have been a culture at the Sun of illegal payments, and systems have been created to facilitate those payments.
You set out material which indicates that the journalists involved were well aware that what they were doing was unlawful according to the criminal law. Is that right?
Yes.
In response to the criticism that the Metropolitan Police had launched an unwarranted attack on press freedom, the inquiry was told this wasn't about detaining a reporter who'd bought a copper, a pie and a pint. Rather, Deputy Assistant Commissioner Sue Akers said it was about regular payments to a small number of public officials.
Some of the initial emails reveal that multiple payments have been made to individuals amounting to thousands of pounds. In one case, this amounts to in excess of £80,000. There's also mention of, in some emails, of public officials being placed on retainers. One of the arrested journalists, for example, has over several years received over £150,000 in cash to pay his sources.
Belatedly, in the eyes of its critics, Scotland Yard is now responding to a problem it should have tackled years ago. Peter Clarke decided in 2006 not to expand the original phone hacking investigation, despite suspecting other journalists were involved, because the former Deputy Assistant Commissioner believed his priority at the time was the 70 terrorist investigations he was also responsible for.
The minutiae of whether there was circumstantial evidence against journalist A, B or C is a minor consideration in comparison with the consideration of what poses a threat to the lives of the British public. Invasions of privacy are odious. Obviously, they can be extraordinarily distressing, and at times they can be illegal. But to put it bluntly, they don't kill you. Terrorists do.
3 years later, John Yates made a decision he now deeply regrets, not to reopen the investigation, despite the evidence in The Guardian that hacking was more widespread. The former Assistant Commissioner, who resigned after the closure of the News of the World, defended his relationships with some of the tabloid's employees, including its crime editor, Lucy Panton, who's been arrested. Robert Jay, the inquiry's barrister, read out an internal News of the World email sent in 2010.
Thinks John Yates could be crucial here. Really need an exclusive splash line, so time to call in all those bottles of champagne. The suggestion is that the favour needs to be returned, and that's what this clearly says, doesn't it?
It's a turn of phrase, and no, I hadn't been plied with champagne by Lucy Panton, and I think it's an unfortunate emphasis you're putting on it.
Again this week, the human cost of the actions of the News of the World was on display. Jackie Hames, a former police officer, believes she was targeted by the tabloid because suspects in a murder case her then police officer husband was investigating were linked to the paper, and they wanted to intimidate the couple. The private investigator Glenn Mulcair had her payroll and warrant numbers, information which Jackie Hames believes must have been leaked, probably for money, by a police employee.
Do you know what? I loved it. I loved being a police officer, and I was extremely proud to be in the Metropolitan Police. But hey, it can't, when it's you and you know that somebody in your family or the police service has sold you down the line, it's very hurtful, very painful.
4 former commissioners of the Metropolitan Police will give evidence next week to an inquiry grappling with a fundamental question. Was Scotland Yard too close to News International? And was this why the true scale of phone hacking is only now being examined?